that and even try to emulate that. See, we all run down to donkey. Don't you think that the donkey is such a noble creature? It carries all the load on itself for others, not for them, for others. Therefore, let us try to inculcate the love of animals through the curriculum. Children should be taught to love animals. And when those children come as administrators, as MPs, MLAs, or ministers, then you will find there will not be any dichotomy between the legislation and its implementation. Hats off to the new generation. I am sure India will be known as the best country in the world in animal love when this younger generation comes to power. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. According to Dr. Bose, very clearly he says that there are lots of legislations in place right from the 18th century to now. In the 1960s, legislations are not there. Legislations are there. And it is the responsibility of the civil society that we should also take this legislation seriously and try to implement the things for the welfare of animal. But he says yes, there are few legislations which are very weak. The fines or the punishment is very less. It should be more stringent. But he also gave an example that whenever there is a disaster, many villagers, their love to the animals are so that they says, no, we will not evacuate ourselves unless our animals will also go. And he says that this shows that we have so much love for the animals. And he has also mentioned that the young generation, which is now taking full care of the animals, they are also, this shows that the future of the India is very bright, and one day will come, the day will come when the India will be known as the animal lover country. And he has given some examples of the foreign countries where even when the animals were not treated properly, they have shown their angerness or their concern. So according to Dr. Bose, the animals are very sensitive. We should not think that they are not listening. They are doing so much work for us. Even he has said that the donkeys, which we treat them in a very bad way, we should understand they are doing the work for others, not for themselves. And according to him, this love about the animals or the benefits of animals, we should add in our curriculum, so the child from the very beginning should learn. And when they will become the IAS, IPS, or the minister, or MPs, MLAs, when they will be, then they know what is the advantages of the animals, and then they will definitely treat them in that way. Thank you, Dr. Bose, for giving your views. Now, my question to you, Dr. Sanjana John, you are shunting between US and India very frequently, and you have in your CV it is mentioned that you have a tiger farm and you have dogs also there. Now, in USA or other countries, to keep pets, many pets are allowed, many animals are allowed. Even pythons they are keeping in USA, the tigers, as you have mentioned. But in India, only few pets are allowed, like cat or the dogs, very few. So do you think, according to you, do you think that the government of India should also allow these types of pets, so that the love, because the young generation, as Dr. Bose has mentioned, they are very much in this. And I have seen myself when I went to USA, that many of the houses, they are keeping many types of creatures in their house with full love. So do you think that if government will allow other creatures to be under the pet scheme, then definitely our love to the animals will increase, and then the cruelty towards animal will decrease? Dr. Sanjana John, please.
Thank you, Gulji. I would like to take up the point that Dr. Bose mentioned. Inculcating values in the young, that is definitely the most important thing. It should be part of the curriculum, because if kids realize that they are also creatures that you love and care for, it makes a huge difference. And as he so rightfully put, that mindset from childhood, when it's there, when they grow up, the value system is already embedded, and they will implement that in whatever position or place they are in. So that is, I think, the first and foremost thing for all of us to adapt or accept and make sure that it is implemented. Secondly, I think that having exotic pets or not, I don't think that is the change factor, because even in the US, people do. There are instances where there is abuse, and the sanctuary that we had when we were in Florida that we were taking care of. It's basically where they used to take out exotic animals from people who had them. And if they were not being treated, because it's not legal to have tigers at homes, actually, but a lot of people illegally would, and they would be seized and then put in sanctuaries. In India, I don't think it's a right, because considering the kind of population we have and the kind of infrastructure we have, I don't think exotic pets is the way to go. But definitely making sure that whatever pet you have or don't have, if you can even take care of an animal on the street, I think that is good enough, and that will definitely create or recharge the society in a much more better way. And like Dr. Bose mentioned some of the stories from Vienna, I would like to mention not stories, incidents that have been part of my life. I live in a dog house. In fact, my home, I've taken in a lot of street dogs. I live with them, and to tell you very honestly, my sanity, and when people talk of depression, when people talk about going through bad phases in their life, they are unconditionally there for you. They do not look for your wealth or looks or fame or game. Nothing. It's you. They love you unconditionally. And like you mentioned a story about how the dog understands feelings. Oh, it's unbelievable how they look at you. They actually sense what's coming in a lot of ways. And one of my mother's friends had a very, very, I would say, heartfelt incident that he told me. He had left his mother in a farm in Gurugram, and he was traveling. He travels most of the time. And in the night, snakes, poisonous snakes came into the farm. And apparently, the pet dog fought the snakes and saved the mother. But in the process, the dog died. And my mom's friend, when he came here, he was telling us that the dog did what he couldn't. He saved, giving up its own life for his mother. And this is how they are. They will die for you. And they don't care if you give them anything. All they want is your love and affection. And over the years, even for children, I've seen, I work a lot with special children, and I've seen the best thing for children is to have a dog, especially special children. They communicate and they relate, and they get maximum support from dogs. And in most organizations, they say to have a pet dog around, or to have animals, whether it's a cat, a dog, it is actually a comfort factor. In fact, in the US, you see comfort animals, you're allowed to take them with you everywhere, because for people who have issues with stress or fear or even depression, they say that having a dog with them is something that can protect and ensure their sanity and stability. So in a lot of ways, it is important, and we've seen them come as dogs save lives. They are the ones for police force. They are there for rescue. They're there for the bomb squad. So we've seen their use and how they can be integral in not just being a loving and caring part of your family, but they're also a huge and integral and important part of our community and society. And as we know, cows we already do value. We have we worship them. But on the other hand, I took a stand to never use leather and never, take undue. We don't need to. Why be cruel? Why inflict pain on something to, for our vanity purposes? So I don't use fur. I don't use leather. And these are things, simple little things that can make a huge difference. And if these values, like Dr. Bose said, can be imparted in the young as they are in school, it goes a long way. I think that's the way we really have to start. With the foundation, with the basic, start when they are children to teach them, to make sure they understand to be a good human being is not just being good to human beings, but to our animals as well. It's equally, and the environment. So I think it's to learn to be careful and caring all around. That's what we have to teach children.
Thank you, Dr. Joan. And what Dr. Joan says, that it is not that you should have the exotic pets at your place in India because of the population. But even if what pet we have or we don't have, we should, if we start taking care, then definitely our animals can survive properly. And she mentioned about Dr. Bose. She says what Dr. Bose has mentioned about the curriculum. Yes, this is a great idea. If we will impart the knowledge or the information to the children in the in the early stage, then the child will definitely start taking care of the animals. And she says the animals are the most faithful. She has given the incident of the dog, how the dog saved the life of the lady by killing the poisonous snake. So she says that we must behave properly, humanly, with the animals also. Then only we can say that we are animal loving society. Dr. Bose, everybody is mentioning something about that Yudhishthir and the dog and other things. Can you just tell us what is the animal's position in literature and ethology? Because now, although in COVID time, we are discussing this. Earlier, we were not discussing. There were some problems in a few of the states where the cow protection, because there is a legislation that you cannot kill any cow. So the problem which the farmers have started facing was that those cows which are not giving milk, what to do with them. So keeping in mind of that and the COVID-19, what is the position in literature and ethology? Dr. Bose, please.
You see, when we speak about cow protection, normally it is misinterpreted as a kind of a chauvinistic assertion by certain religious communities in India. May I make it clear? The cow is revered, not only in the Indian mythology. The cow is revered in the Bible as well. In the Bible, King Pharaoh has a dream. 7 fat cows emerge from the Nile, followed by 7 lean cows. The lean cows swallow the fat cows. Pharaoh was flabbergasted. He consulted all his ministers. They gave opinions which would be pleasing to him. Joseph, who was in the prison at that time, he interpreted the 7 fat cows represent 7 years of prosperity. The 7 lean cows represent 7 years of famine. The wise Pharaoh, taking a cue from the cow, he appointed Joseph as his minister. Joseph took steps. Buffer stock was built up. When the neighboring countries were reeling under famine, the granaries of Egypt was overflowing. Where did the king get this message? That to be forewarned is to be forearmed. He got it from the cow. Therefore, please don't give any particular religion to a cow. The cow is a part and parcel of our life. You know, the cow represents prosperity. The cow represents sustainability. The cow represents affection. Why I'm saying this? The first king of the earth was Prithu. Prithu sees that somebody has taken all the resources of earth and ran away. He, being the king, chased the intruder, the fugitive, and was about to throw his arrow on it. Then he found it was Mother Earth in the form of a cow who had fled with all the resources of the earth. When the king was in an attacking mood, the cow stopped, turned back and smiled and told him gently, I have everything in my udders for you. Your food, your medicine, everything I have in my udders. But milk me gently. Milk me gently. Even today, Isn't it the best example of nature protection? As Gandhiji said, the earth has everything for man's needs, but not his greed. We should also realize we have not inherited this world, this universe from our forefathers. We have borrowed it from our children. What we have borrowed, we should have the decency to pay it back. Therefore, this denigration of the cow as a symbol of some myopic vision of a particular religion, totally wrong, biased. Now, in literature, yes, literature is replete with anecdotes and tales, and in many places has the cow or the other animals as heroes. It is not time for us to forget. It's a three-headed dog, furious dog, which guards the gates of hell, Hades, Cerberus, three-headed dog. This three-headed dog was not only for its ferocity, but it could enjoy music. When Orpheus came in search of Eurydice, his wife, who died, was in the netherworld, he played on his lyre, and this ferocious dog listened with rapt attention. That is, here is a sensitive dog who can enjoy music. And secondly, as per the Indian mythology, who introduced agriculture on the earth? She came from heaven. It's a bird. It's a bird, Annam Churikali. The bird was given. Each god gave one seed or something connected with agriculture to her. And finally, Lord Shiva is a Lord of destruction, not preservation. Even he was pleased with that. He asked the bird, take 2 oxes also for this. See, what a noble thought. Agriculture was introduced in the world by a bird. And there is another case of a bird. There was a small bird, a nightingale type of bird. There is another creature in the forest, very arrogant. It's a puny creature. It's called Angula. Angula is also Sanskrit word for small measurement, very small measurement. This young Angula, the creature, the worm, arrogant person, he will ridicule all the other animals. He will measure them and ridicule the, tiger, the lion, and he measured the small nightingale and started laughing at her. You're only 1 angle long and half an angle wide. She felt very bad. She started singing in full-throated ease. All the animals and birds, everybody stands still, listening to the heavenly music. After the music is done, this bird is asking Angula, that arrogant worm, can you measure my music? If so, please do. There are characters, umpteen in mythology, and also rat. We all worship the rat because it's Ganesha's vehicle. But once the rat thought, why should everybody respect Ganesha? If he wants to move, he should depend on me. Why all these gold ornaments on him? Why not on me? So one night, when everybody was sleeping, the pujari had gone. The rat took all the ornaments of Lord Ganesha and donned it on him. And he felt, I am now equal to Lord Ganesha. Early morning, a cat came. Because of the weight of the gold, the rat could not move on. Then there is yet another rat and cat in literature. Once God asked the rats, what boon do you want? The rats had seen the television advertisement. So they said, please give us what is that? That wheeler thing? Wheelchair, not wheelchair. See that moving thing on which children normally go?
A tram? A tram? A tricycle? A tram?
Yeah, not tricycle. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, let a tricycle. Yeah. So God granted a tricycle because they thought these people rats thought we can run away from the cats if we have this vehicle with us. The next month, God asked the cats, what boon do you need? They said, we don't need any boon. The boon that was given last time, that was that itself is enough. What is that boon which I gave you? Now you see, our food is coming on a tricycle to us. So that is what happens. Animals are interesting creatures in mythology, in literature, and now even in politics. Even in politics, during the heydays of the Cold War, Khrushchev visited America. Kennedy was the president. Now, Khrushchev had a dog with him. That dog is given the position of a colonel. See, in the USSR, the prime minister's dog has the rank of a colonel. People salute it. If a better ration is there, there are a lot of soldiers willing to do its bid. And the dog of the president of America, that dog felt belittled. I am not given any of these privileges here in this democratic country. Why? But when they are about to leave after the visit, the Russian dog came and asked the American dog, brother, will you permit me to live on in the US? And the US dog asked, why? In USSR, in Russia, you are a colonel. You have got a special ration, people to attend on you. Then why? The cryptic reply given by the Russian dog is, but I want to bark. I want to bark. Leave the animals to live their instinct of life. Instead of training them, and you train the dogs and you train them, as if they are going to appear for the IB examination. They live by instinct.
Yes.
Don't hamper the instinct. We also need people, we also need animals to live by instinct. And why do you assume that their instincts are all wrong? No. I have one personal tale to narrate. We had a cow in our house. That cow was so fond of my grandmother. We used to say they are almost like friends. That cow is not there, long time back. My granny is also not there. Once when we had a get-together in our family, a newspaper was shown in which the ghastly, depressing sight of a cow on a truck. See, the cows are taken for slaughter. The cows are tied to a tether inside. But one cow was hanging outside, tethered inside, but hanging outside with the bulging eyes. Very pathetic sight. My brother said, this cow looks like our cow. Just a nostalgic memory. And then I said, what horrible thing they are doing. Then he said, where are the authorities? What are they doing? Are they sleeping? Suddenly it dawned on me. I was the authority. I was the principal secretary, animal husbandry. I was guilty. I suddenly rang my officers, the collectors, the SPs, and told them, arrest them. They were arrested. That was perhaps the first arrest in recent times for atrocities against a cow. I think maybe that is my thanksgiving to Mother Earth. That is my thanksgiving to Mother Cow. That is my thanksgiving to the cow in the Bible. Never ever treat animals or brutes. As Shakespeare said, reason has fled to brutish beasts and men have lost their reason. Isn't it? In our animal care, reason has fled to brutish beasts and men have lost their reason. I think history, literature, mythology is all replete with the tales of animals who did great things. Great things. Do you know Antiochus? Antiochus in the battle. Antiochus was overpowered by the enemy. The enemy mounted Antiochus's horse. It knew it is somebody else who is their master. Do you know what the mute creature Antiochus's horse did? Antiochus's horse ran, galloped with the enemy on top of it. Then it jumped on a precipice. The horse died, along with the new rider also died. So never treat animals as contemptuous beings. We are all animals. See, when the first man, the caveman was there, Was there any kindergarten to teach them? They lived along with the animals. Even now the tribals live along with the animals. So let us go back to the animals. And now, if we have one more minute, the animal farm. George Orwell's Animal Farm. Once upon a time, long ago, there was a farmer who had a very prosperous animal farm. The animals once found we are being exploited. So animals joined together. And they said, now you have no place here. The animal republic is born. Every republic needs a president, a king, isn't it? They elected a pig, Napoleon, as a president. Rule number 1, the constitution of the animal republic. Animals will not kill each other. Animals will not drink. Beautiful, beautiful provisions of the constitution. But one day, the animals found from the palace of Napoleon, the new president, drunken revelry is going on. They thought animals will not drink. They went and saw the constitution again. The next day, there is a constitutional amendment. Animals will not drink in excess. In excess. The next day, the donkey which led the rebellion against Napoleon, he was found dead. Animals thought, it is written in the constitution, animals will not kill each other. Again, a constitutional amendment. Animals will not kill each other without valid reason. Now you tell me, who is a greater politician, a greater poet, a greater guru? Isn't it the animal? Therefore, 3 cheers to the animal kingdom. If I have one more life, I would certainly love to be an animal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. He says that if he will get another life, he wants to be animal. And he says 3 cheers to the animal. Due to the paucity of the time, I have to wrap up the show. But before that, I would like to just summarize one thing, that today all the 3 panelists or the 3 guests have mentioned one thing, that civil society should come up. Although they are doing lots of good work, but still more is required. Please feed the pets, please feed the stray dogs. Don't abandon them. After all, they are also living beings. And that is why if we will do this, such type of service, it's a very, very human service, which we all should do. Thank you very much. And today's program, which has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. Our endeavor is to bring every day a new topic. And tomorrow, our topic is healthy diet during COVID-19. And our guests are Dr. Madhu Goyal, bariatric physician, Center for Metabolic Surgery, Mumbai. We have Dr. Prerna Hegde. She is the senior dietitian, KS Hegde Charitable Hospital, Mangalore. We have Miss Amina Malik. She is CMS Wokhard Hospital, Mumbai. Then we have Miss Remya Iyer. She is senior dietitian, NS Cooperative Hospital, Kollam. So please tune in tomorrow on the show, the media conference with Lal Goyal at 10:30 a.m. And one more thing which I mentioned yesterday, we are now Gyan Presents, because we want that people should be more aware about the things. Gyan Presents Healthy, Tasty, Easy Recipe, No Sugar, No Oil, by Miss Ruby and Miss Ranu. Learn to cook 3 vegetarian yummy healthy dishes for just ₹200. Cooking classes on Zoom on Saturday, 29th August 2020 at 3:30 p.m. For details, please contact 990-172-8861. I repeat, 990-172-8861. And also Gyan presents Workshop in Professionalism. Yes, Workshop in Professionalism on Zoom on Sunday, August 30th at 12:30 p.m. Registration charges only ₹200. For details, please contact 9844-182-044. I repeat, 9844-182-044. Thank you all of our viewers for viewing this program, and thank you very much Mrs. Menka Gandhi, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, and Dr. Sanjana John for joining us and giving your very, very expert opinion about the COVID-19 impact on animals. And I'm sure our viewers will take the cue from this, and they will definitely be more sensitive with our animals. Thank you all for watching it.
Thank you.